Good. Perfect. All right. All right. We should have like a cool intro screen, Mike. Like, welcome back to MarTech Live, and it would be doing something like, hold on, I think I can get one really quick. How about no, it's not.
We need like the opening to the Muppet Show.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
With the musical number and the curtain opens and our very special guest, because today we have one.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm trying to remember do you remember the theme song? If we had Khan here, he would remember the theme song.
Time to play the music.
Oh yeah, time to play the music. It's time to start the show, right? Isn't that it?
Right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Welcome back to MarTech Live. All of our many, many thousands of viewers across the land. Zero. Jay's watching right now. We are back. We took a little break. I went to Alaska and I saw a glacier and it changed my life, which was pretty amazing. Mike, how you been?
I'm good. I also took a break. I went to New Mexico, where it is beautiful and dry and warm and monsoon season in the summer.
Where were you in New Mexico?
Mostly in Albuquerque, but a little time in Santa Fe, Bandelier National Monument, Bernalillo, just kind of do it in sort of the central New Mexico. We have kind of fallen in love with the I-25 corridor.
Nice.
It goes from Las Cruces, New Mexico on the Mexican border up to Buffalo, Wyoming, where it meets I-90. That includes Colorado, Denver, Colorado Springs. So I think
it's got to be beautiful there. And isn't it? Doesn't George R.R. Martin have a movie theater in Santa Fe?
I don't know if he does. It's a big Georgia O'Keeffe spot.
Nice.
There's a Georgia O'Keeffe Museum.
Did you go?
I have been. We did not go this time, but our other kind of vacation spot we go to often is the Adirondacks in New York. That's another Georgia O'Keeffe spot, so we can't escape her.
Yeah. I love a Georgia O'Keeffe flower. That's one of my faves.
Yeah.
Welcome back. All right, we got a couple things to do today, which is pretty exciting. We got a winner of the week. We got a piece by Mr. Jay Mandel, who's going to join us in a minute, talking about marketing burnout. But before we bring him on here, let's talk about this piece, because it's definitely feels to me like it's resonated with the audience, with our readers. Yeah.
Yeah, so it got picked up by the Daily Carnage marketing newsletter, among others. And just today in their Friday newsletter, they kind of recap what they linked through for the week. And it was the top story. It got the most attention in their newsletter, as well as the MarTech site. You know, it resonates with everybody. Like, why are marketers leaving? There's been a lot of talk about burnout going back to the pandemic. And the Daily Carnage ran a little poll of its readers, not the most scientific poll ever, but asked them to rate their burnout on a scale of 1 to 5, and 20% of them said their burnout was a 5 out of 5, which kind of led to a whole discussion yesterday and this morning between you and I. I know you shared a TikTok video of a B2B marketer who watched people make guitars by hand and was like, I want a job like that. And then somebody replied to that and said, I want to run the groceries over the scanners at Trader Joe's and hear the beep. And, you know, when we bring in Jay, we'll talk about the reasons people feel this way. I think one of them is a sort of people have soured on the corporate world. Certainly in this country and probably beyond our borders. Then it's not a leap to figure out why. And the idea of making something by hand, like the guy on TikTok with the guitars, and something that you can hold and touch and play and listen to, even if it's the sound of the groceries getting scanned at Trader Joe's, there's something tangible there. And I think some of this goes back to the pandemic, when a lot of people were rethinking what they do and how they do it and how they live their lives. And I think a lot of people maybe dreamt big and then for various reasons stuck with what they do. And now, like 5 years later, you're like, here I still am.
Yeah. Super interesting. I before we bring Jay on, I'm curious, do you think it's not just marketing, right? Like, I mean, you and I both live in the marketing world, but I have friends and spouses and others who aren't in the marketing world. You think it's just marketing, or you think this is just like what's going on in corporate America?
I think it's larger than marketing. I think because we live in a marketing world, I think because marketing has been so disrupted by AI and other stuff, there it's just sort of like one more thing on top of the pile in marketing. But there are certainly people I know in IT, in finance, who kind of feel the same way.
Yeah,
And I saw a post on social. I think it was on LinkedIn yesterday, where people talk about, uh, I'm leaving my job. I have to give 2 weeks notice. I have to train people on how I do what I do. If the company decides they're done with me, they don't have. They can just tell me I'm done.
yeah,
Right. So it's that sort of frustration that um, it's seen by some as a sort of one-sided relationship. Uh,
yeah,
and it's been like that fact, right? If you leave, traditionally you give 2 weeks notice. If you're fired, laid off, whatever, that
yeah,
doesn't usually really. I mean, it's been that way for years. This is not just happening this year or this week,
yeah,
um, but it. People are feeling it more. But
yeah,
I think things. You start to ask why. Why is it that way?
yeah. How much? How I was at a meetup. I was at an AI meetup on Tuesday at a bar, which is a
Where I
bizarre
expect to find
experience.
you, by the way, not the bar.
What's that?
It's where I expect to find you, not the
Yeah,
bar. But the AI meetup.
yeah, that's where I was. I was. That's right. And somebody asked a question about burnout. Interestingly enough, and the one of the guys on the panel said, "Yeah, he runs an AI software company. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling really burned out. Like I can't keep up with the news. How much do you think that just the AI? I mean, it's a self answering question, I think, but like, how much is the AI stuff, the torrent of stuff coming at us, contributing, or do you think that's just additional noise on top of what is already a tough situation?
I think it's additional noise, but like it's a disruptor,
Yeah,
right? And people have various ways of dealing with disruption and change. It stresses a lot of people out. So if you're already a 4 on the burnout scale and you're getting mandates about using AI, you're struggling to figure out how to use it, whatever the case may be, maybe that pushes your 4 to a 5.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's stop talking about Jay. We can just talk to Jay. Let's get him on here. Uh, Jay
Hi.
Mandel, welcome to
Welcome,
MarTech
Jay.
Live, brother.
Thanks. We're live.
We're live, man. I don't know who's watching. I just asked Kyle to check to see if we're actually live, so I'll eventually go look at the screen and see. But Jay, welcome to MarTech Live. Thank you for being a MarTech contributor. If you're watching out there and you don't know, martech.org works with some of the best, brightest minds in marketing to contribute to our site and give us context and voices and opinions. And we got a good one from you today, Jay. And I know part of your story, not all your story, but I know part of your story. But like, give us a little background on this article and like, how'd you write this thing? I don't mean technically how'd you write it, but like, where'd it come from? I got to assume that you feel kind of burned out. Maybe we'll play the game later where we ask each other what our number is. We'll see if that happens.
You know what's funny? I've been writing for MarTech for over a year. I think it's now a year and a half. And out of all the articles that I've written, this one came the easiest to me. There's always like a little deadline. I get that note that says your article's due in like a week, and usually I have it done before that. In this case, I didn't. And what I created for this article, and by the way, the next one as well. It's a little bit more of a truthful assessment of where I am and what I'm feeling, and it's speaking to like literally what I'm experiencing. So, if you take a look at the start of the article, I interviewed this person named Emmanuel Cinca, and he says in this interview, Jay, did you know that 1 in 4 people who unsubscribe from my newsletter, which has about 100,000 marketers, they tell us that they have left the industry for good? And I'm like, what? Like, are you serious? And I sort of had that feeling in the back of my head that something was happening. And I sometimes question to myself when people tell me, hey, maybe you should just drive an Uber. Maybe I should leave marketing because it's much harder to make that impact. But literally, the people that were doing marketing as a sort of like toe dip, they're leaving because the whole world of marketing has changed right before our eyes. Today, we're live, and I'm glad that we're live. We're doing Substacks, and we're doing all these different new creative things, and we're watching a paradigm shift from all this extractive marketing that people are experiencing. That's like, okay, I'm going to get you into the sequence. I'm going to call you 100 times. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And none of it is working the way it used to work. The amount of leads that people are getting from the sequences is like really, really low. And you know what's funny? I was just on the phone with Manu Sinka just right before this call, and we're going to be talking about partnering together. Isn't that interesting?
That's great. I mean, what's the context for that partnership?
The context for that partnership is walking the walk and talking the talk, and not treating someone like a schmuck. Like, I had an interview with him. He stated some interesting facts. He's doing something that I respect. He respects what I'm doing. You know what, Mike and Mark, I mentioned the fact that I was getting on a call with you guys right after. And, there may be a opportunity for MarTech and Stack Marketer and the Marketing Accountability Council to do something. But isn't that a lot different than the idea that you're looking at someone as a captive target because you got some intel from some AI or some data that was sold by a data broker that puts me in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then surfaces something that just doesn't make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, it strikes me what part of you're talking about is just the industrial revolution structure, right? Like people are commodities in light of an organizational structure. It's just like we're assets, right? We're assets of an organization.
We're skews. We're skewmans.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I read, Ashley Goodall, and it's The Problem with Change, and he has a whole chapter that says that humans are now skewmans, and they look at us just like we're a product on a shelf at Amazon.com, and if we didn't sell that much, we could be laid off. Like, I don't feel like a skewman being on this podcast. I earned it.
You earned it, Jay.
I wrote a good article, and because it was on the top of the list, that's why I'm featured. But we're in a society now where you can't just show up and expect to earn. You got to show up. You got to give people what they want. And the highlight in my article was that I showed the slow and steady growth of the Marketing Accountability Council. Like, we're talking about hundreds of subscribers, not thousands, not millions.
Yeah.
But I venture to say that the ones that have millions probably purchased a lot of those people, and probably 50% of them are bots. I know exactly who's subscribing. I know when they're subscribing. I know why they're subscribing. I know where they're coming from. And most of them are like-minded people that are aligning with what I'm putting out there.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me, the reasons for burnout. And, I've been working on this theory around brand being back, and we're seeing all this shift with AI and all this stuff. But like the notion of performance marketing and attribution and KPIs, like these are all things that sort of force you into mental models and marketing models that, get easily measured, but aren't necessarily true, which I feel like that contributes to burnout, because you sort of spin around, right? It's like, well, how do we get more clicks? Well, we've always said we can get as much traffic as you want. Like, I can give you 100% open rate, right? I just find the one person who's going to open it, and I mail that to them, and I've just solved my open rate problem. So like everything is manipulatable. But I think in the context of burnout from a marketing perspective, like, what do you think about like KPIs and attribution? Because like those are hard things to do. They're hard things to measure. They're not easy. And yet management doesn't necessarily fully understand or grok what any of that stuff means, right? They just want a result.
They want a result, but the result, it's often difficult to connect the conversion with the result. And if the conversion is anything but getting someone to sign up for a service or pay for something or engage with you in a meaningful way, then it's less of a conversion. And so my colleagues in the Mac, and you know them well, we've been doing this experiment. We've been doing this for like a year and a half. And the truth is that we're working with some people to solidify our roadmap. But when businesses come in and they're like, okay, we're starting a product, we need to have viewers, we need to have subscribers, and we need to demonstrate it in a month, it's not realistic. And so whoever you get, you're going to get them by bombarding them with some ad. You might trick them into subscribing to your thing. And then you look at the stats a month later, 2 months later, and none of the people who came to your site through this artificial way are still there. For us, the people that are here are raising their hand and saying, I'm burnt out too. I want to do something different. I want to do something better. And if we pay attention to these people and get into conversations with them, which is what we are doing, it leads to planting seeds. And those seeds lead to activity, and that activity leads to business. And I just want to get back to that. It's like, like there was this whole idea that just because you measure it, we should measure it. And but it never connected quite with what the end goal is. And now we're at a place where I think people are going on platforms, they're writing their truths. The article that I wrote, it took me years to go from being afraid to being courageous enough to be all out there and call this bullshit. And now the cat's out of the bag and I'm going to just keep on going.
Yeah.
But like, not everyone could write an article like I wrote because they don't even understand and appreciate what it takes to break through. We've been in this era, and LinkedIn trained us to do this, where you could write an article, the top 10 this, the top whatever this, and it's useless stuff, AI slop, and people are just like autopilot doing this. But when there's an article that actually speaks to something that you're feeling, that's when people perk up, and then they're like, I want to talk to that guy. And guess what? People are talking to me about these things right now.
I was going to ask you, what's been the reaction? Have you gotten a reaction directly or indirectly from in like, I'm going to interview somebody later today. I'm really excited to talk to her. She's a CMO at a software company. And what's interesting about her is that her writing is explicitly vulnerable, which is why I think she's having so much success. You talk about vulnerability. It's very hard in today's society to, it's like you really have to question your sanity. Like, am I actually about to do this? Like, am I going to be vulnerable with this, with my professional career, which, is ironic in a way because we're all human. But what's been the reaction to the article? Have you gotten direct or indirect feedback?
Yes, I have. I mean, I've noticed subscribers to the Mac, a paid subscriber. That's really cool. Like this week, and you're able to attribute it from MarTech, which is good. The other thing that was freaking awesome was yesterday I connected with someone who I saw on LinkedIn, and she said, "It's funny that you connect with me. I just read your article on the Daily Carnage." And I'm like, I didn't even know what that was. Mike has told me a little bit more about that. And I sort of discovered that not only did they highlight that article that was written in MarTech, they've highlighted the Mac Stack, which is something that I'm working to like earn some credibility on. So I'm pretty excited to see that, yeah, people are reading the stuff. The way I look at martech.org is I'm as I said, out of the bag. I'm writing a lot. When I feel like writing something, I write it. And when I write it, I have a much higher bar for what I say and how I say it and what I put out there. So if you have a month's worth of Mac articles, the MarTech article represents the overarching, not day in and day out feel, but the overarching feel of where that boulder that I'm pushing up the hill is at that month.
Yeah.
And so it's an aggregation of just it's a confluence of lots of things that are coming together for me. And so when you look at that article, yeah, that basically represents a lot of the things that I wrote for that month. And one of the things that I also did the month that I wrote that article was that I interviewed, I think it's called a person from resumebuilder.com. And they said that 47% of people in Gen Z are picking trades over that traditional corporate path of, like doing some sort of services thing. They want to use their hands.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? Like,
It's interesting.
we were in this field, we felt invincible. We were doing all this stuff. We were getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for running analysis, this, that, and the other thing. And it sort of dried up.
It does feel like it's sort of dried up in a strange way. Do you feel like do you feel like vulnerability? We'll go all Brene Brown on us here for a minute. If you've read her stuff, do you feel like vulnerability is the key to fighting burnout?
Yes, that's a good question. And if you use the V word, so I'm going to be even more vulnerable. What I've realized over time is that my vulnerability professionally has a direct connection to my increased vulnerability personally. Personal and professional are one and the same. So the vulnerability that I am exhibiting by starting the Mac, by creating this platform for myself, represents deep psychology that I've uncovered in my therapy that basically says that in the past I was afraid to say certain things. In the past I was fitting in a box. In the past I was just sort of ignoring certain things, and I was watching these patterns happen in my personal life and in my professional life. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it.
That's
so that's
spoken
why I'm
like
so vulnerable.
spoken like a true head shrunken therapy going guy.
Yeah.
Which I had therapy this morning, and I unleashed a whole bunch of stuff on my
You
therapist.
talked about Jay. You talked about courageousness and a little bit like I think we kind of touched on authenticity. There was another piece that we ran in MarTech this week that Konstantin von Hoffman, who's our managing editor, wrote, where he looked at Pride Month marketing. June was Pride Month.
Yep.
You've touched on this before with Target in DEI, which was another highly performing article on MarTech a few months back. I feel like what we learned about Pride Month in Khan's article, there were some stats in there. And it was basically people were like, support Pride Month, ignore Pride Month. They want to see that you have an opinion on. And what they have gotten from a lot of companies is we're just going to go with whatever way the political winds are blowing. We're just going to go with whatever is going to make the shareholders happy. I feel like that feeds the cynicism that we have for corporate America, that it's like, okay, you bombarded us with ads for supporting Pride Month, supporting vulnerable parts of the population, but once it's inconvenient, you drop it. And so everything you tell me in your marketing is just how you think you feel, right? Yeah, basically,
it's total bullshit. Mike, I wrote an article about that too. I couldn't help but notice the fact that last year every logo was Technicolor, every single one, and then this year I'm like, where is all the color? What happened? And it's not that hard to figure it out. Like, we have a political environment where we're not acknowledging holidays, and we're renaming battleships, and we're attacking quote unquote woke culture. Listen, there are several. Maybe DEI went too far in certain ways, but that doesn't mean that if you're a company and for 10 years you sponsored the Pride Parade, and then the next year, just because the politician says something, that you no longer support that, because that you're hurting the customers who thought that you were in it with them. You're hurting the people that work with you that are in that space, and Yeah, and like what can you trust when you thought that Target was all about the black community, and then all of a sudden they're taking all the stuff off the shelves, but now they're sponsoring the Essence Fest.
Yeah.
Like, how does that all work?
And I feel like that plays into two things that we've talked about, because it plays into the burnout, the marketing team that for 10 years put together the Pride stuff and the campaigns and the Sport for Pride. And then this year it's like, oh, we're not going to do it. And I think that plays into the cynicism and burnout. And then for the results of the marketing, the people don't trust anything you say. So whether
Yes.
it's about your support of Pride or about your products or about your people, you look at it all and go, yeah, whatever. That's what you think right now, but not, long term. You don't have a stance. You have whatever's convenient for you. I think what's interesting to me is my kids who are wrapping up elementary school introduced us to the term scamazon.
Oh,
It did not come from us, but all of the kids, the whole neighborhood, they all refer to it as scamazon. I don't know where they got it, but those are your future customers, Jeff Bezos.
well, or maybe not. And that goes to another article I wrote this week. Part of the problem is hype. I wrote a piece where I compared Prime Day and Prime, the beverage that your kids probably went goo goo gaga, the one with Logan Paul and all that. And I talked about the way that Prime got to the top and its precipitous decline. And the reason why both Prime as a beverage and Prime as a manufactured holiday have gone from riding up to precipitous decline is the customers are onto them. There's technology that allows people to realize that the price on Prime Day that used to be 1 day and there's now 4 days, it may not be better than the price it was a month ago. And there we go. And so they're realizing that there's hype tricks, there's countdown calendars. Like, how many countdown timers are you going to go through? How many things that say that there are 10 other people trying to buy this product, knowing that it is not actually happening? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like, I am not going to buy into the fact that I'm going to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I know there are hundreds and hundreds of hotel rooms. Don't tell me there's one left. Because I looked the night before and there were 1,000 hotel rooms. And so when people keep on getting tricked by that stuff, it's not good. The Prime, they literally withheld inventory to make it appear like demand. They did all these stunts, and I have no problem with building it up with YouTube and influencers. The problem I have is that you think it's a real business, and then you realize that now that it's everywhere in every store, no one gives a shit about your Prime.
So there are marketers who are potentially burned out who are running those stunts, right?
Yes.
I just find that interesting to think about, right? Like
it's a playbook. It's a playbook. Like,
yeah.
We're gonna buy the thing that makes it look like there's a countdown clock. We're gonna make it look like there's a waiting list. Like, come on. Like, I mean, it was novel that there was a waiting list for software that was exciting 10 years ago. But to think that you have no one interested in your software, and then you're going to send me an email saying, jump on the waiting list. Like,
yeah.
What? Just give me access to it. Like, you got to shift with the times.
Yeah. I agree. One last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. So I don't know if either of you guys saw Rand Fishkin's post. We were having I would love to share it. There's a video. Maybe we'll figure out a way to show the link later. But it's not really related to burnout, although related to burnout, talking about basically like modern marketing and measuring things and how we go about doing these things. He wrote, I'm going to read this. He wrote, the only answer I found is to go back to what worked in the 20th century, lift-based, experimentation-centric measurement, which is kind of like along that lines I was talking about earlier in terms of the performance marketing and the sort of need for like instantaneous results versus like, how do we build a brand? I mean, I think what you're doing, and I know what we're doing in MarTech, is we're slowly trying to build a brand, right? Credibility doesn't come overnight. You've got to do it every single day. Every single article we publish has to be as good as we could possibly make it. Your perspective has to be on point. We need to be careful how we use things like AI. But I have this sense that the modern marketer, and in fact, your Mac member Jacob this morning posted on LinkedIn. He was on Reddit and he notices all these people talking about tools. What tools should I use? What should I, how do I do a thing? And my comment back to him was, shouldn't we figure out why we want to do a thing before we go off and find tools on how to do those things? I think that as it relates to burnout, it's all in the pot, right? It's like, well, this all leads to, like, if I don't know why I'm doing something, but I'm running as fast as I can to do it, and ultimately whether it works or not, like, that will burn you out at some point.
It will burn you out, and there's several examples of that. I saw this ad for this company called Braze AI or something like that. It's one of these tools, and it said you can go on our platform and it put in any website, and once that website is put in, we will tell you the tone, the voice, the message, and then you could take that and apply that to your marketing. That's fucking, excuse my language, but that's effing bullshit. Like the idea that you are selling a pair of shoes and you could go in and copy Nike, who has worked for however many years to come up with whatever they're going to say, and they've earned it, and then you're going to come in and you're going to believe that you extract it, and then you're going to do well with marketing when you've done no thought on who you are, what your message is, who your audience is, and why they should buy from you. And it doesn't even address anything about your product. That's bad. And then you have things like this Taylor Brands thing where it's like, okay, we're teaching these people who are not marketing experts that once you get your LLC, you could use our AI to build your logo. No. Your AI logo will not work. The false premise that just because you show up and people will show up to your stuff, no, it doesn't work. It's too crowded. The barrier to entry is too low, or too. You don't have. There's no barrier to entry. So now that you can create all this stuff with AI and all this stuff, you need to actually say something. You need to have a voice, and that's what's going to attract people to your mission, your journey.
Yeah, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Great conversation, great article, great piece. We're looking forward to your next pieces and all the stuff that Mac is doing, and hopefully some partnership stuff that we can eventually roll out. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Mike. We promised MCP stuff today because I know the masses want it. It's why they're here.
We can't do a MarTech Live without Mark geeking out on AI. So
that seems like it's correct. So I'm just going to do one thing as I prepare for this. I'm just going to make sure that this thing is still up. I had a little problem this morning, but it's all good. It's all good. I was freaking out right before we went on. So, Mike, what is MCP? Do you know?
Yes. Model Context Protocol.
Nice.
I got that right. Yes.
You got that right.
We had our MarTech Bot Explains It All segment last Monday, I believe. Kind of talked about MCP and what it is. And, right now, we know these things change often. It looks like MCP servers are going to be a vital part of using AI within the enterprise. Because of the way it connects stuff. You're going to, I think, demo something here and show it better than show us better than tell it. So
and showing and telling is this is what this is all about, because I had read about it, I knew about it, whatever. I knew that MCP servers power protocols and their runtime environments, all that nonsense. I know that they've been described like nervous systems for AI agents. I saw a description the other day that's like it's like a film studio backlot where all the action happens behind the scenes. The one that I liked the most, that really got me the most interested, was to think about MCP like a USB drive. You can plug things in, which I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, right? So if I've got an app on a USB drive, like just plug it in and run it. But all of that was theoretical until I did it, which is one of my favorite things to do, is to do things. And so I'll just move my screen around a little bit. So I have been working with a platform called Obot, OBOT.ai. I'm going to share my screen here for a moment. There it is. Okay, so I've got this platform called Obot. Now, Obot is open source. There's a SaaS version, and there's actually a version that you can run through like a Docker install if you really want to go nuts, run it locally. And Obot was interesting, until they added MCP servers. And so I'm going to just let's do a little tour. So what you're looking at is, hold on, let me go back to the main screen here. So this is the main screen with all of my agents. There's some dummy agents in here. By the way, like we don't have a relationship with Obot. I met them at a AI conference here in North Carolina, and it was kind of the easiest way for me to kind of get my hands on some stuff that I had been thinking about. And so, if you want to go to Obot.ai to check it out, you certainly can. And they've got some demo stuff in here that you can play with. I'm going to kind of go into my personal assistant. So this is where I've been doing most of my work. And I'm going to give you a quick tour on the MCP servers or the MCP servers that I've already added. And adding them is literally point and click. And part of what's interesting about this whole thing is that it's all point and click. I don't need necessarily API keys. I mean, I need authentication for sure. And so what I've done here, whether I should or shouldn't, Mike, is another story, but I've added my entire personal Gmail G Suite. So it has access to my Gmail, my calendar, my docs, my sheets. I added DuckDuckGo search, LinkedIn search. I added Blue Sky images, and this thing called Puppeteer, which is unbelievable. And I'll get into that. So it is truly plug and play. There are additional MCP servers coming out. I was doing some research last night. HubSpot has one. There's one called, what is it called? It's called Data for SEO that doesn't have an online. You'd have to run it yourself. That apparently is unbelievable. Nick Eubanks was telling me it's amazing. So you kind of get the point, right? You have this framework where you can plug things into. The other thing I will tell you about Obot is that with API keys, you can actually light up any number of LLMs to add capability. So you've got kind of like a dashboard now that you can do all sorts of configuration and set up in. So you can even add a system prompt. So these things it's sort of highly configurable. All that stuff is great. So the first thing I want to do is look at email summarizer. Now, I'm going to do this stuff in real time. So if it fails, and we'll move on with life. But I had previously built an email summarizer that worked kind of the same way. It was just a little harder to set up, which is to say I have a Gmail tag. I basically filter email, subscribe to an email newsletter like martech.org, subscribe now, and then add it to a label. And in that label, I had Zapier looking at that label and then taking the content of the newsletter, send it to OpenAI, and then send me a Slack message. Just basically say, hey, here's a summary of the email. And that's great, and it works great. This is similar. The only difference is that it uses the MCP server. And so what this task does is it's going to, and again, they make it pretty easy here. It has 2 steps. Look at my Gmail in the past 48 hours for emails tagged daily reading list. That's my personal tag. Summarize any emails found in a digest format, simple bullets letting me know if there's anything important to read. So let's just go ahead and run it so we can see what this thing does. So right now what it's doing is it's logging into my Gmail. And I'll just open this as it happens, right? So this is the details of this, right? So it's basically looking, here's the input 2025, July 7th, which is 2 days ago, 48 hours, daily reading list, give me 100 results, and make sure it's unread. It's now listing the label. So it's basically going through my Gmail now, and it's now found, let's see. So it says, here we go. Here's the, so I'll be vulnerable, Mike. I don't know what this is going to show because I subscribe to lots of things. So here's the unread emails from the past 48 hours tagged. So I've got one from Ferris, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
You get email from Kareem?
I do. He's got a Substack.
Okay.
Grepbeat, which is a tech newsletter here in North Carolina. Our friend Brian Morrissey, Greg McKeon, who is the author of Essentialism. Okay, so it basically went into my Gmail. It grabbed everything that's unread in the last 48 hours, and now it's summarizing them. Summarize any email. So here's Tim Ferriss highlights from Japan, 72 micro-seasons of short film. Kareem's talking about Trump's impact on America. Troy Young's talking about discussion on Gen Z preferences. So essentially, right, I'm getting a hint. Now, what's cool about this is I can automate this if I wanted to. These tasks are on demand. And so I could, for example, set this to run every day, past 24 hours, send me a Slack, send me an email, send it to a Google Doc, whatever. Like it just unlimited what you could do with it from there. So that's use case number 1. That's email summarizer. Make sense?
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Pretty
How
cool,
do you
right?
think it compares to, obviously, you put it all in one place. You could go down, you could read the list, you could be reminded that Kareem is a Renaissance man.
Exactly.
Gmail's got the email summarizer that right now appears at the top of each email, so you got to go to each email to get it.
I think that's the difference. Is if I wanted to go to Gmail, I'd just go to Gmail and flip through them all. I think this cuts through that noise a little bit. Again, like it's information overload. No matter how you cut it, you're relying on AI to summarize things for you. The thing that I had done, I haven't finished programming this one, but the thing I had done with my Zapier example was I also asked, based on my criteria of what makes interesting content, whatever I happen to be interested in, for the AI to tell me if I should remain subscribed or unsubscribed from that particular newsletter, which I thought was kind of clever as well.
Yeah. I think it's probably only a matter of time until Gmail will send you a summary email. Like, what time do you want to get your summary email?
Yeah, totally.
What time do you log on in the morning? Here is everything that's in your email so that you don't have to go through all the junk.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, so I'm not going to leave my personal assistant. And so again, we're in one environment. I'm going to start a new thread. And this time I'm going to paste this in. And so this time I'm going to say, I want you to look on Blue Sky. Now I am pre-authenticated in Blue Sky. By the way, Mike, I got it to work.
Okay.
So I want you to look on Blue Sky for a recent post about marketing technology. Then I want you to create an image from that post for Instagram. Then I want you to store that image in my Google Drive. Again, I've done nothing but just add the different MCP servers, right? We can look at those over here. Here's my Gmail. In this case, what it's going to use is it's going to look in Blue Sky. So it's going to go to Blue Sky. It's going to look for that term. It's going to then use this image plugin, and then it's going to use Google Drive to store the image. So let's go ahead and do this and just see what happens. And I need to think for a minute where that folder is, and I'm unfortunately going to have to. Okay, let's do this. So it's searching posts, right? So basically, it's now querying marketing technology for one post on Blue Sky. Apparently it's found it. Here's the post. Let's see. Stephen Gogol has posted. Let's see if I can find. Here we go. Here's the text. Sharing some thoughts on Forbes Technology Council. Okay, great. So he's got a LinkedIn, or he's got a Blue Sky post here. It's now going to write a prompt based on that. Again, all I did was what I showed you, right? So it's going to do an image representing the concept of small and mid-sized companies using low-code AI tools. That's kind of cool. And then here is the output of that prompt. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Create file. Okay, so it has created an image and it has dropped it into my G drive. So let me just, I'll be vulnerable again. Here's my G drive. Here, Instagram images. So it didn't, did it create a different folder? Hold on, let me check. I thought it was going to send it to the same folder, but generated image. Let's search for this image in my Gmail. Hopefully it worked. That would be bad if it didn't. It didn't work. Oh well. Oh well. So here's the demo from last night. It did work, and I asked it to look for an image about baseball. It found somebody talking about popcorn, and this is the image it generated. So I don't know why that didn't work. That's disappointing. Oh well.
So you showed us an example, kind of a personal productivity, right? Go through my email, summarize. Yeah. How can a marketer use this in their work, maybe beyond making it easier to go through their email and summarize stuff? Like, what's an actual use case that supports a campaign or a marketing workflow?
Yeah, so this is interesting, and I won't run it. I'll just show you the output, but you kind of use your imagination. There's a couple of these use cases. So scraping is a pretty popular activity, for us to want to do. Grab content. In fact, I think I have the output of a test I did earlier. Let's see if I can find it. So scraping content becomes very easy when you use an MCP like Puppeteer. It will go and it will pull content. And so in this case, what I did, I don't want to run it again, just in case it doesn't work again. But last night, I basically went to baseballreference.com. I found Yogi Berra's page because his stats are always mind blowing when you look at them if you're a baseball fan. And it basically said, hey, go to this page, grab the content, and then throw it in a Google Doc for me. And that's in fact exactly what it did. I've also run this exact use case where I pointed it at Third Door Media's website and said, hey, grab all the staff people. Or I went to the SMX page and said, hey, grab all the sponsors and tell me who's sponsoring at what level. And it goes and it automates the entire thing. What's really cool about the MCP stuff, if I find this here, let's see. It actually shows, as I've been demonstrating, it shows you everything it's doing. Can I not find it? Here we go. Automatic. So here was the thing where I scraped Yogi Berra's page, and you can see what it's doing is Puppeteer actually navigates to the page, and this all happens behind the scenes. It fetches the content from that page. It then parses it, creates a spreadsheet for me, and then drops that content into it. So from a scrape standpoint, unbelievable capabilities that are unleashed with this stuff. And I think for me, the thing was seeing this and like, you can talk about this stuff, but when you actually put your hands on it and use it, it's like, whoa, that's actually pretty incredible, because I don't need to know page structure. I don't need to predefine anything. I just need to point it at it and let it figure it out. Kind of amazing.
Yeah. And Obot has a whole collection of MCP servers.
They do.
That is available to use. And I get, I've started getting alerts. The latest yesterday, I think, was Reich. Putting one live. So all of the popular software applications are jumping on board.
Yeah. And I think that's, just from a marketing technology standpoint, I think this is a game changer in many, many ways. HubSpot has one, for example. And with HubSpot, you're able to now take a interface, whether it's Obot or another agent interface, they'll all be extensible. They're all already extensible. But you'll be able to point your agent at any number of these MCP servers, as I've just demonstrated, and do all sorts of wild tasks. Now, what's interesting is when you start to chain them together, right? As I showed in the email summarizer, this is a workflow, right? Like this email summarizer is in fact, where the heck did it go? Just getting confused here. Here we go. This email summarizer, again, you can do on-demand tasks, as many as you like. So you can literally sit here and go, I want you to go to these 3 websites every single day, and I want you to scrape the latest 3 articles, and I want you to summarize those articles, or I want you to create Instagram images of these articles. So like for us, for example, we don't have a huge staff, and so it's tough for us to create briefs or shorts or other pieces in the future today. But in the future, you should be able to, hey, every time a MarTech article is posted, read the article, send it to GPT, use our custom GPT to write an Instagram post, save that to a spreadsheet, alert that person. If that person approves it, create an image, review the image, save the image, right? So I think that's the kind of workflows that we're talking about are automations, not necessarily from A to Z, but sort of human in the loop automations that allow you to do things that you just couldn't do in the past. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Again, hands-on.
The nice thing about Obot is I think people are becoming familiar with the concept of MCP servers, but it's like, how do you access them? How do you find them? And Obot has got
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And I've just, like, the last couple of weeks, I've been playing with this a little more and more and more. I've got my podcast Playbook Broker, and I've got a PR agent in there who it's just all it does is it connects to LinkedIn, and I can say, hey, here's what the show is about. I've already told it, here's what the show's about. I even gave it transcripts. Suggest some guests on this topic, and it will just go look in LinkedIn and come back and say, here's 3 or 4 people who are interesting. You might want to talk to them. So again, I think like with a lot of this stuff, the possibilities are endless, but putting your hands on this technology, I think for me at least, gave me like, oh, that's how it works. I was having a hard time conceptualizing, what it was until I actually put my hands on it, which is why I thought it was a good idea to show everybody today.
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's wrap up with our favorite segment on MarTech Live is what's in your feed or what's on your feed. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
No, I'll go. I got
right,
in here. Friday, LinkedIn between Memorial Day and Labor Day. It's kind of like being at the bar after the band has left before last call. It's kind of who's around and hasn't figured out what to do today. But yeah, attention is all you need. Well, that's there's some truth to that. And look, there you are. Steve Armenti, MarTech contributor, talking about the cash cow sitting in our CRM. I've seen a few things lately about CRM data. I'm gonna get some data for an upcoming MarTech charts about CRM data and the state of CRM data. It's always been a mess. No one wants to put data in correctly and talk about something that's ripe for automation. I had a call, listen to the call, put the stuff in for me so I don't have to do that. Features that correlate with brand appearances and AI over this. Oh, so this is a huge topic. Who's this? Tim Solo. This is the big thing right now, right? How do I get my brand visible on LLMs and AI overviews? And we were talking about this week. There's a lot of theories right now on what it takes to do this, but it's sort of all theoretical. I don't think anybody really knows. But it's also one of these things that I think in a couple of years we're going to look back and go, look, oh, we looked at it this way. Weren't we so silly? Right? How to get rich with faceless AI content. If I could get $997 for how to get for faceless AI content. Oh, Jordan's got a new job. Jordan's great, by the way, if you talk about brand and demand. Brian's with Databricks. And again, branding. We're seeing it everywhere. And oh, look, a new podcast.
Hey,
awesome. AI for GTM. Yeah, that's gonna get some attention, I think. That's from the folks at Hockey Stack. What's Kieran have to say? Influence beats. It's funny. Influence beats clicks. Branding. It's just interesting times, right? Because it's the hard to measure stuff. Like, how do you measure your influence? How do you measure your brand? It plays into the visibility on AI overviews and LLMs. Like, my brand is showing up there, but it's not leading to traffic like search did. So what kind of impact is it having?
I think that's the Rand Fishkin thing right there in a nutshell, right? We can't measure it like a direct marketing, performance marketing asset. Like, how do you measure it, right? You do market by market lift, like you do surveys, you do aided surveys, but none of those things are instantaneous measurement mechanisms like, direct clicks. I just think the current crop of marketing decision makers, myself included, is so rusty on measuring brand. With the exception of CPG, obviously those guys know what they're doing, but in the B2B space in particular, like, I just think it's a rusty skill. Like, it's a hard question to answer.
And I think it's rusty for those who have done it, but there's also some who have never really put the work into brand, right? Because they were so focused on performance and the measurement and the attribution and stuff. So it's like, it's one thing to say, well, I haven't used those muscles in a while. There's certainly people out there in marketing leadership roles in B2B who've never exercised those muscles. So it's
remarkable how many times you'll get a post on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, X or whatever, where it's like the 4 Ps are still real. Like, yeah, the fundamental principles don't ever change. Sorry. Like, if you didn't learn those in school, you might want to go read a book. Like, it's helpful.
Yep. What's your feed looking like?
All right, let's take a look at my feed. Hold on. We go here, feed. The right page. It's always scary sharing your screen. There we go. All right, here's my feed. Let's refresh it. See what's on here. I got Lily Ray commenting on a Mark Williams Cook. You can safely discard your 159 node N8N automation that created 500 AI source in 5 seconds. Starting next week, YouTube is only paying for real voices and original content. This is a huge deal. It's part of the reason we're doing MarTech Live. It's part of the reason we're doing conversations and playbook, and like, this is a big deal. How about that?
Yep. Are they going to be able to tell? That's over time. Are they going to be able to tell?
Come on, Mike. That's a different question. Akamai Technologies promoted ad. Okay, whatever. Here, Nick Zeckets. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Most B2B marketing teams are set up to fail, not because they lack talent, not because they don't work hard, but because they're trapped in monthly quota hell. This is directly related to burnout, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you go month by month, and you're trying to reach goals that are unattainable, what's that going to lead? What's the toll it's going to take on you mentally? That's going to end up at burnout, right?
This is a theme here. Fast is slow, and slow is fast. I think we agree. You can't build credibility overnight. It's just not possible. I was Googling earlier. Do you remember? I'm just so old at this point. Do you remember E.F. Hutton? E.F. Hutton's old commercial.
Yes.
I should put the link up for that. Like it's that, right? It's you got to earn it. So there's Nick. He's great. Give him a shoot.
Yeah, Nick. I mean, if you look at that, it's the problem we've been talking about for years. I need to get 200 MQLs this month. You get 10 to 15 days into the month, you're not on pace for 200. It's not that hard to get an MQL, right? You put up a piece of content, you put up a form, you promote it, and so you do the sort of low effort thing that's going to meet that goal. Downstream, it's not going to have the impact, right? So, and that's what we've been talking about for years, that if you're going to give people goals like, hey, collect 200 email addresses, they're going to do what it takes to collect 200 email addresses. That doesn't mean they're going to collect 200 people who are going to become paying customers.
Totally. Big Idea, Small Table Spotlight Conference. This is a SEMrush deal. It's unlike Mastermind Agenda. Yeah. So this is the SEMrush conference in Amsterdam. You should go. It's gonna be a great time. I don't know if I'm going yet or not. I hope I'm going. Here, Jacob Sanders from the Mac. Kids, don't forget the inflamed fringes at the edge with burns inwards. What is he talking about here?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be talking to Jacob and friends on Tuesday.
Okay.
Monday or Tuesday. We got multiple time zones going on here, so for some of us it's going to be Monday, and for some of us it's going to be Tuesday. But that's going to be a conversation with MarTech about creativity and like long form stuff. I will tease it. We're going to play some clips from ROI the musical.
Oh, ROI the musical. That old gem. All right.
Yep, and you never know.
I like the sound of that.
You never know what you're going to get when you put Jacob Sanders on video.
He's a machine. I love him. ROI the musical is amazing. And then we've got Dave Davies. So this is funny that this came up because I was actually quoted in the press release here for Cloudflare. Cloudflare is really attempting something interesting. It's generated a lot of discussion around creating a mechanism for paywalls for publishers. It looks like Search Engine Land actually picked it up and covered it. Mike, did MarTech? MarTech cover that? Yeah, I thought you guys did.
Yeah.
This is really interesting because this feels like a noble effort by a company who's known to do some noble things. Their platform is the original platform that tried to help us with denial of service attacks, and they've done a good job of that. This effort's a little bit different though, because they're kind of putting themselves right in between the audience and the publishers. I thought you had a take on this. Did you have a take on this? Because I thought it was really interesting. An interesting effort.
I do think it's a noble effort. So Cloudflare, basically, they have the ability to block AI crawlers from accessing sites that use Cloudflare. And with Google, the deal in air quotes, because it was not a signed legal deal, but the deal was, we're going to crawl your site, but we're going to send you traffic. And as we were just talking about the LLMs, nobody knows how it works. You get less traffic for sure. Nobody knows how your brands get mentioned. And so the idea here is, there's also the idea of copyright and, borrowing quite heavily from people's content. If you pay for access to the sites that use Cloudflare, you can crawl those sites, but you're not just going to come in and get it all for free and not give them any traffic or very little credit for that. Absolutely noble cause. Part of me would love to see this work. I think the issue is going to be Cloudflare. I think 15% of the web's traffic goes through Cloudflare, which is not nothing. But if they got all 15% to buy in, it's still you've got to put the LLMs in a situation where they have to access it. It's easy, I think, for the LLMs to just be like, okay, there's still, 85% of the web's traffic that we will crawl and send traffic to or mention. If you don't get like the biggest players, I don't see how it works. You have to get like a critical mass to make them pay to say, okay, we can't feed our machines without these sites.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think there's a scale issue here, but I mean, I think it's just interesting. I'm just rereading this article. 10 years ago, Google crawled 2 pages for every visitor it sent to a publisher. 6 months ago, the ratio was 6-1. Now it's 18-1, and you can see, Anthropic is and OpenAI. I mean, the reality is that our business model is kind of under attack, and I'm not sure necessarily what to do about it. I think the other side of this is if you require bots. So 2 thoughts. One is, if you require bots to pay for content and they don't, well, then then you can't win the visibility game, which means you can't win the brand game, which means you're dead, I guess. I don't know. And then the other thing that's interesting, Mike, is that we know that there are many, many scrapers of our site, right? Like we very often will see some weird site in Singapore, China, India, whatever, who has our exact article posted, sometimes with credit, sometimes without credit. Well, what if those sites don't block the LLMs with Cloudflare? Then our content's still out there, right? Like
it's like a backdoor.
It's like a back door. I don't know. This whole thing is really interesting. But I do think Dave is right in terms of just my feed. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's where I am with this too. It's going to be interesting. I think at some point they're probably going to hop in with here's who's on board with this. Like, who's going to be the first to get on board?
Yeah, I would think so. We gotta have that. We gotta have that conversation. I don't know. We haven't. Really
I mean, the thing about getting the critical mass is the LLM companies have to feed the beast, right? And if you starve them for things that can be crawled, then their results aren't that good.
Right.
It's just a matter of whether you can actually starve them, and I just don't know that they can.
You can't starve a hallucinating, lying machine, right? Like, it'll just make up answers. There's no starving it.
Is that what happens, right? If you don't let them access the actual content from the web because of some sort of initiative like this that blocks them, does it just make up more stuff?
Yeah, it just depends on the query, right? Like we know that if you ask an AI a question, unless you've explicitly told, and even if you explicitly tell it, it doesn't matter. But if you ask an AI a question, you are getting an answer. If you're not smart enough to know if it made it up or not, that's a different story. And the gap between being smart enough is getting squeezed, I think, every day. I find myself like questioning everything now. Like, what is real? Am I real? There's some kind of test, right? If you can cough, it means you're not an AI. AIs can't cough. I think that was the thing a few weeks ago.
So recording a video or an audio like this, stopping to clear your throat is kind of, maybe that's how YouTube's going to tell who's real for.
Oh, maybe that's maybe one of the markers. Hold on. Oh my God, I can't cough, Mike.
Yeah. No.
What does that mean?
It just means AI is going to start coughing after a while.
Yeah, exactly.
The more people do that stuff in their video and audio, the more AI is going to copy it. So
that's right.
When it gets to cold season in the winter and everyone's coughing and clearing their throat, AI will start doing it, and then that'll be done.
Totally. All right, man. I think that brings us to a hearty conclusion for today. You got any last words, or are we good?
No, thanks to Jay Mandel. Great article, great thoughts, great conversation. Everybody have a good weekend.